Hello, everybody. Welcome to XRP Boys, where I am joined by my co-host Zester, who's been away for a little while because he's been moving house. Zester, how are you?
Oh, I am doing well, doing much, much better now that I'm settled in and life gets to get back to a little bit more of a normal pattern. But I've definitely been missing our conversations. How have you been, Paul?
Oh, I've been doing quite well. It's been very, very busy out there. Dare I say it, crypto isn't making me go wow at the moment. It seems to be sort of steady and then it's dipped a couple of times. And we're sort of running at this slightly lower thing. But we've got
Mhm.
loads of stories today for you to have a look at. We're going to catch up on the recent week. We can't go all the way back to when we last spoke because there'd just be hundreds and we'll never get off the camera. So, shall we
Mhm.
dive right into our first story?
Oh yeah, no, absolutely, absolutely.
Right. Okay. So, our first story, Bybit has done an investigation looking at crypto blockchains, and they found 16 blockchains that can freeze users' funds. Now, this is something I've been waiting for all blockchains to adopt because
Mhm.
let's be fair, if you're going to play in the banking world, the fact that you can't stop a transaction is going to cause problems for little old Auntie Jane who's 90 who's just been scammed.
Mhm.
What are your thoughts on this one, Zester?
Absolutely, Paul. I agree with you in that I think we're going to see this is going to be talked about more and more. It's also something that has been around for a long time. It's kind of been one of those things where it's been a surprise to some to find out, and also very upsetting to others. But I see in the article it mentions BNB. And
Yes.
actually, I could use that one as an exact example that I've dealt with. BNB has, and they will, freeze wallets that have stolen funds inside of it. The BNB chain has always been able to freeze a wallet or to freeze a transaction, assuming that they can catch it in time and that they're willing to do so. And I think it's going to be something that, for the sake of consumer protection, a lot of different blockchains are going to adopt some way of being able to do it. I think what's going to get important is going to be whether it's a centralized authority making a decision, whether it's a corporation essentially choosing whether they're going to enforce legal action, or whether it ends up being government oversight and law enforcement that comes in. I think that conversation is one that we're going to start having more and more in the coming years. And that's where I think it's going to become very important to pay attention because it's a scary thought. Most of these freezable blockchains, so everyone knows, are going to be the ones that are run by companies. In this situation, XRP Ledger. I have not even read the article, but I know that XRP Ledger can be frozen.
Yeah.
They can freeze your account. They can take your XRP. BNB chain, it's run by Binance, the company. You're going to see whenever a blockchain is run by a corporation, not something decentralized in the same fashion as like Bitcoin, you're going to see the company hold the ability to lock it because they don't want to go to jail. And that's really the reason. Any blockchain run by a corporation, law enforcement can go knock on their CEO's door, and that CEO can go spend a long time in a Turkish prison. He's not going to risk it. And so I think, Paul, this is going to be a regular one. It's scary, but it's going to be a mainstay.
I think you're absolutely right on this one, Zesta. And we need to start paying close attention to where the founders, the CEOs, corporate offices are based.
Mhm.
Now, I hate to say it, creating a blockchain in your basement, in the garage, that those days are long gone now. You're not going to be allowed to do this very soon because there's going to be a whole load of legal laws that you are going to have to follow in the not too distant future because nobody wants to get scammed. You're absolutely right. And I almost want to say it makes sense to be able to freeze a transaction, especially if it's through the proceeds of crime. Now, on the back end of that, are we going to see far more heavier restrictions applied to things like Bitcoin? Because there's no clawing back the transaction. Once that transaction is sent, it's sent, and there's no bringing it back in any way, shape, or form. So, this brings us into some very sketchy territory. Are we likely to see Bitcoin banned?
Hmm. Well, it's one of the reasons that and a lot of folks have always said, well, Bitcoin's going to go away. A lot of these other cryptos could go away. They're inefficient compared to the others. And in many ways, from a transaction speed standpoint, from things of that nature, that's a very true statement. They are less efficient. But guess what? I cannot knock on the Bitcoin headquarters. I cannot twist some Bitcoin CEO's arm and make him do something. It is truly decentralized. If the government wants to stop XRP, they can stop it. If they want to stop Ethereum, Vitalik Buterin is going to be on the most wanted list. They can do it. There's a difference between these, and that's where there's a lot of strength in the truly decentralized blockchains because there's nowhere to go knock. And I think that there's always going to be the institutional blockchains, the ones that, are operating between banks, the ones that have those kill switches, the ones that have that entire regulatory body behind them. And then you're going to end up with the ones that maybe governments do ban or do make it difficult to operate in. Things like Bitcoin or Monero being, the ultimate example because it's a true privacy ZK hash encryption. It's the CIA can't break it. And so those are going to be the ones that are they're still going to exist, but they're definitely going to exist in that other space as we go into the future. That's not where grandma's going to have her retirement fund. That's where somebody, the libertarian crazy or the guy trying to do something silly with his money, they're going to be over there.
Absolutely. Right. Moving on to the next story. And let this be a warning to crypto scammers. Russian crypto investor his wife found dismembered in the UAE. Now, I looked into this story. Turns out their crypto dealings have been a little bit sketchy, shall we say. They
Mm-hmm.
like to take people's money and not much in the way of returns. Now, the rumor that's going round is that he went out in the middle of the desert or wherever it was he went with his wife to meet a crypto investor. That was the last time anybody saw him and his wife. And then obviously now they're like this. Now, we do hear these stories from time to time that, shall we say, scammers scam the wrong person. And let's be fair, crypto traditionally was for the naughty boys, the ones who like to move arms, the ones who like to move drugs, things like that. They like to move their wealth that way because it's fast and quick, or clean their money. We're now seeing that these scammers are picking fights with the wrong people because their greed knows no bounds and they're now paying the ultimate price. So think twice before you take grandma's money.
Mm-hmm. Well, and we saw that one, and this is one that was a month or so ago, and so we hadn't got to talk about it with the UK and US shutting down the $17 billion pig butchering scam, an entire criminal enterprise, actually the largest seizure of funds in human history, not just in cryptocurrency, but no legal action has ever resulted in that much money being acquired in one fell swoop. Um, and it's the tides are turning on the scammers, and law enforcement is starting to actually do it. And it really comes down to the fact that we've talked about before. We always, on account of the blockchain, knew where the money went. What we couldn't do was get law enforcement to do anything about it because the person who stole it is obviously not in the same country 99.999% of the time. And that means we're going to have a conversation with Interpol. We're going to, maybe our governments don't get along, etc. A million things can come up. And needless to say, your local sheriff's department is going to go, oh, that stinks. And they're going to file it in the do not care folder. We're seeing that change. In this situation, this was a little bit of a backyard justice type deal being thrown out on account of him stealing $500 million from people, which I could see $500 million being a pretty dangerous amount of money to have scammed from folks, especially from the wrong type of people. But we're seeing this all around. We're seeing law enforcement getting a lot better about the scammers. And I think that that's only going to increase. It's going to become a dangerous business to be a scammer in the crypto world because it has always been the dumbest place to scam people.
Yeah.
It's really the dumbest place possible because you are going to get caught. But because of the nature of our interconnected and disconnected world, they were caught, but we're never actually having to be punished for it.
Yeah. You're absolutely right. And also on the back end of that, and I want to take it one step further. We are now seeing governments around the world short on cash.
Hmm.
Wow. Some governments are having the biggest paydays taking down scammers who have stolen millions, billions. And this leads me into the next story because a crypto scammer has been caught in the UK. And I will turn my sound on for this because there is a video to go with this. The Chinese Bitcoin Queen, the 5.5 billion pound stash, and the 5-year police chase inside London's crypto wars. She stole 128,000 investors worth of money, converted it straight into Bitcoin, and this was in 2017. So she's been on the run for a long time. Now, what we are seeing now, these crypto scammers who try to live in Western countries, shall we say, mainly, they can't get their money out of the crypto. They just can't because of the blockchain. It's just not allowing them because they need off ramps, and off
Hmm.
ramps have KYC more often than not now. So this is a great one. I'm just going to play the video quickly of her getting raided because this is definitely worth a watch.
Police officers! Police! Police! Police, there you are! Police!
Boot that one.
Police!
Police!
There you are! Yeah, come on. I want him. Juno present. Your glasses.
Hello.
Is it Zimin Kian?
Do you speak English? Hello, it's okay. We're all police.
Zimin? Do you speak English?
I need
Okay. Take a deep breath. My name's Dixie Woods, DS Isabel Grotto from Met Police, okay? We believe you're Zimin Kian, okay? You're under arrest. You're going to be arrested for money laundering, Section 329 Proceeds of Crime Act.
Hardly someone who's stolen 5.5 billion pounds worth of money, and she's camped out, dare I say it, a normal 3-4 bed house,
Hmm.
which, that's not an extravagant lifestyle considering the amount of money she's stolen. So does this beg to argue that the on and off ramps are now becoming so important in the fight against scams?
Hmm. Oh, they're the biggest government control point because that's where the government can control it. It's that shift from fiat to crypto, crypto to fiat. And that's absolutely going to be where all government and all regulatory agencies are going to really try and target in terms of being able to counter crime. And money laundering is what they're going to say. It's also going to potentially give them a little too much power all around, but it's going to be one of the major target points. They're going to want a backdoor into any corporation's blockchain, and they're going to want to control where you can buy and sell your crypto. That's why in the States, a very, very, very illegal thing to do would be for me to say, hey, Paul, I'm going to give you $5,000 of Bitcoin. You give me $5,000 of cash. That sounds quite harmless. Paul and I are making an agreement. It's
Oh,
5,000 for
dare I
5,000.
say it, a sales transaction.
Yeah, that is a very illegal crime. Because I am not allowed to do that. Essentially, that is, and it remains illegal. And that's one of the major things that's their other way. They're trying to make certain that the only way to get the money in or out is essentially to go through the certain doors that they have set up for you. And when you go through that door, you are registered, you are weighed, and you are measured. And so they really are. You can see from all of their actions that that is the target point. It is control how money goes from fiat to crypto, crypto to fiat. And then furthermore, when that line starts to blur more and more and more, it's going to be from liquid to illiquid. And it's where they're going to control it. Essentially, they're going to control it through the centralized exchanges and you bring it to the bank. Their blockchain remembers where that money has always been. And so, like in this lady's case, the reason that it was so simple is because all of that crypto, that blockchain forensics, it follows that money all the way. And that money was tagged years ago as being caught and through fraud. And that means anywhere she goes with that Bitcoin, it is going to immediately scream to any centralized exchange, this is a fraudulent Bitcoin. This is stolen. The blockchain makes that so simple, it's going to essentially become impossible to filter money through that way. The only real get around, I think, is going to be countries that maybe have a few less F's to give about it, or who genuinely have a bone to pick. Like in this situation, could you not potentially argue that the United Kingdom is saying, the great part about taking this money from her is it's a bunch of Chinese nationals' money. We're not planning on giving it back. We don't owe anyone crap. I do wonder whether that's not part of the thought process on some of these, because you're going to see the same way that governments are taking Russian assets that were held inside of their countries to fund, the Ukraine effort and things of that nature. You could very much see the same thing occur where if I go to China and China goes, hey, we checked your social credit score and we're not really all that happy with what you've been up to. Well, China might be more than willing to swipe my crypto and try to pull it off. I could see there being a lot of Cold War. What are we at 10.0 in the crypto
Yeah,
space on that one.
absolutely. And as you said, makes a nice little dent in the national debt if they sell all that Bitcoin.
Oh, or a nice Christmas bonus for the law enforcement and the politicians.
Well, on to my next story, and it's an exciting one. Dun, dun, dun. Canary Capital advances XRP spot ETF. It's now live today, the 13th. And are we all crypto billionaires in XRP, Zester?
Let me check. Let me check. It's been a few minutes since I refreshed that. Unfortunately, I have lost a penny of all of my XRP since the last time we checked. Sitting at $2.39.
Fantastic. And we were talking just off camera earlier, and I was saying, yes, these ETFs have gone live. The question is, though, did Canary Capital have to buy this XRP from the retail open market, or were they handed it by Ripple in some secret NDA deal? And now what's happened is actually the supply's increased. That's something I'm sitting here trying to understand. Because in theory, if you've got institutional money starting to filter in because they're now not scared of government oversight, surely the price should go up. Or is it on the flip side? Is XRP a little too late to the party?
I definitely on the ETFs, it is a question. And also there's the possibility that they're making purchases in OTC purchases over the counter. And so it's also possible that Canary Capital is going to someone like Coinbase and saying, hey, I would like to buy $10 million of XRP. Coinbase takes it from their treasury of XRP, and they negotiate a fixed price for Canary Capital to purchase it from them at. This occurs in the stock market, in OTC transactions in the stock market. It occurs in commodities. It occurs everywhere. But it's very, very prominent with institutional money in crypto because order books can't handle that type of volume. If they were to go and Canary were to every single time more money flowed in, they were to go to Coinbase and click buy on the order books. that would drastically affect the price of XRP on the Coinbase exchange because that would be on the books, actively being traded. And so it is an important question. I would say this one is more exciting than the other ETFs because this one is a spot XRP ETF. And so it's actually direct exposure to XRP. But the biggest thing, and what I've always, everybody gets excited for ETFs. I get excited for when they're coming out. But the most important thing here is how much money flows into this. Ultimately, it doesn't matter if a billion different ETFs all come out, if every single one of them only has, $10 in it. Actually, if there were a billion of them, that would work out. But you know what I mean? Essentially, we need to see money flow in to these ETFs, and we need to see it stay. It's not enough for it to launch. We need to see institutional money using it, and then we'll get to really see how much of a positive benefit it has on the market. I would say, Paul, that a lot of the talking heads, the analysts out there in the space, they do pinpoint essentially, at a $10 billion inflow into these spot ETFs that we could potentially see a very, very massive rise in the value of XRP because we might start to actually get to a point where we are consuming as much XRP as is being released each month because XRP releases from escrow more XRP into the ecosystem. That has an inflationary effect on the price. It's one of the hardest things we've been battling when it comes down to the XRP price targets is that inflation that occurs every single month until all of the XRP are in circulation. If these ETFs manage to start consuming that monthly release, now we're going to talk about we could absolutely see huge explosions in prices, but that is a tall order. It is a lot of money that needs to start flowing in through these ETFs, and then we can start partying and planning on which new Tesla we're going to buy.
I think it's also testament to how much XRP has held its price predominantly, considering the fact that there's new supply hitting the market every month. Now, whether that's hitting the retail or whether that's going into private coffers, shall we call it, I don't know. But, it is holding its price. And that's something to go, hang on a minute here. That's not too bad. I think we might see some price action over the next few days, but I don't think it's going to be humongous unless a big boy comes in with a real name and goes, bang, we're in. And then we might see a snowball effect happen.
Yep. Yeah, we need next week, and it'll probably be sometime next week that we'll really have some decent data. But we'll probably hear at close of the stock market today, we will probably get those preliminary numbers on how much did this Canary Capital ETF do on its first day of active trading. Those are going to be the things that dictate it. It's not going to be the physical effect of the ETF purchasing. It's going to be the effect on the overall market. If $1 billion come closing time today flowed into that ETF, then go look at the price of XRP, and you might see something that's going to be far more pleasant. But it will be. It's going to take time. We need to see money flow in. We need to see money stay in. And we need to see how the rest of the ETF launches go for XRP. We've got so much stacked up for the end of this year that got pushed back because of the U.S. Government shutdown. And so it all got pushed back towards the end of the year. We've got so much to look forward to. Biggest question here is what is the appetite from the big boys? Just like you said, does JP Morgan come in and say, we're putting $10 billion into this XRP ETF? That is when we can start popping champagne bottles.
Absolutely, Zester. Now, on to my next story, which is sort of a fun story, but also a strange one. Hollywood.com to launch prediction markets via Crypto.com partnership. Now, last week I did a little story on Crypto.com. They're getting into the the crypto betting space. And Zester, I've got to tip my hat to you because you tipped this earlier on in the year that this is going to be massive crypto gambling. I mean, it's big already, but I think everybody's going to jump on this now because you can literally bet on, I don't know, whether a blade of grass is going to grow or not. I mean, it's so ridiculous now. What are your thoughts?
I absolutely, and we're seeing it the likes of like Kalshi and the predictive crypto markets. The blockchain technology does it allows you to literally gamble on everything because we can place a value, we can place a price, we can place ownership. We talk about all of these facets of what blockchain is capable of doing, and well, one thing that it also is it essentially makes it possible for Paul and I to bet on an 8-year-old Pee-wee game being played in Saudi Arabia, while he sits in the UK and I sit in Puerto Rico. We can literally bet on that. And we know that it will be valid. We know that the proper person will be paid. It's all locked up by a smart contract. And it fits so well with where society and culture are already going. We've gamified everything. We've turned everything into a gambling experience. And yeah, soon you're going to see crypto gambling on everything. It's going to be just as big as Vegas, just as big as like the NFL fantasy football is in the United States. People bet and lose millions and millions of dollars every single football season on these things. And yeah, what are you going to be betting on crypto.com, Paul? Which ones are you going for?
To tell you the truth, and you ask anyone who knows me, family or otherwise, I don't gamble because I have zero luck. I lose every bet I ever make. It's hilarious. I dread to think what the person who has my luck is doing right now. They are probably laying on a beach somewhere beautiful and just living their best life because they've got my luck because I have zero. But we are
Yeah.
seeing weird and wonderful things being betted on. But this does show you as well how easy it is now and safe to set up something as crazy as a crypto bet.
Mhm. It's smart contract technology that really is one of those nuances of blockchain technology, and one that you're going to hear about it forever. And I think it's going to forever be one of those terms in our society where people say it and use it and don't really know what it means. I have a feeling it's going to enter into that space, but it absolutely allows for us to make agreements and contracts about anything in the same way that we could agree to, I'm going to buy your car from you. We can
Yep.
make that into a smart contract agreement. We can do the same thing with gambling. And yeah, me personally, I'll remember how bad your luck is, though, Paul, because I'm not a gambler. Whenever I'm very confident in something, I bet a dollar. And that's, if I'm very, very confident, I bet a dollar. But I've got one friend, Cullen, who I think he must have the same thing you do, because if he bets you money, take the bet. Take that bet. That's free money. He has never won a bet, and I don't think he ever will win a bet. He could bet that the sky is blue and a freak supernatural event will occur out of nowhere, and you will win his $20. And so no, I'm sorry to hear that, Paul, but I think I know somebody who's got the same.
Yeah, I just it's just the way it goes, unfortunately. But I've been blessed in other aspects of my life. Now I'm going to move us on to our last story of the day. The Trump administration wants to allow crypto-backed mortgages. Here's why. The Federal Housing Finance Agency directed Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac to draft proposals explaining how they would consider crypto assets in mortgage risk assessments. Now, I've got to say about this one, as long as crypto is speculative, it's got to be a bad thing, surely, because if crypto goes in a downward trend for a few days, surely that will plunge you into negative equity and probably trigger a whole host of things.
Yep. It is. I think that what they're doing here is they're really setting the stage for stable coins being used in that fashion for, like the Pax Gold, stable coins pegged to gold and silver, stable coins pegged to fiat. I think that's really where they're creating that market. But also, think about it. If you had backed your mortgage with Bitcoin 5 years ago, and you had backed your mortgage with Bitcoin, you would have already bought that house 5 times over.
Yeah.
And you would literally be sitting there with all your Bitcoin still in your hands because it's collateralized. The way that they're using this is as collateral. They're not making you sell your Bitcoin. They're saying that you can literally take your Bitcoin and hold it as collateral against the loan. That means, though, if the price of Bitcoin drops down, you may need to over collateralize that loan. The value of Bitcoin goes skyrocketing. You may have just finished paying for your house. In a matter of no time at all. And so it's going to be very, very interesting. I think that it in large ways, though, was really setting the stage for stable coins that are backed by precious metals and the like, and also setting the stage for the idea of bringing your house onto the blockchain. Essentially, I think that they are working their way towards that point where that's going to be something you start hearing about in the future, where the Trump administration or whatever administration it happens under will start talking about different programs to bring houses, to bring cars, to bring different systems onto the blockchain. And well, you need to be able to essentially operate with the blockchain money also in order to do that.
Absolutely, Zester. Well, that brings us to the end of our time for today, everybody. Zester, thank you for joining me as always. Where can everybody find you?
Thank you so much, Paul. Definitely looking forward to getting back on schedule with our crypto chats each week. And everyone can find me over at the Crazy Cryptonaut on YouTube or Rumble. I actually have a cool little challenge going on right now. I'm doing 0 to retirement, trying to use all of the different learn to earn airdrops and everything to see just how much of a retirement portfolio can we put together if we truly started with $0 to invest in? I'm at about $650 actually in about a 4 week time, and I'm getting beaten by some people in my community. Actually, there are some people in the community who have made more than me. So having a lot of fun with that one, Paul.
Fantastic. And as always, head over to xrpboys.com where you can find all the latest crypto news, what's going on out there. And also head over to brooker.tv where you can find my other content that isn't crypto related. So take care, everyone. God bless and see you soon. Bye now.